What's up everyone, my name's PlatinumHowler. Today I am bringing you my draft analysis for Season 6 of the NCL, known as the Nimbasa City League. We are playing in the Blitzle division. They're the lower of the two divisions. Technically speaking, the lower of the two divisions, although when you look at the player pool across the two divisions, it's very hard to tell which division is the top division and which is the lower. There are some good players in both divisions, and you can hardly call the Blitzle division the second division anymore, but I feel like I've said division way too many times. Anyway, this is a National Dex Showdown League, which is not something I would usually take on, but because of the steps back that Wi-Fi battling has taken, and also just not being able to use all of the Pokemon in Sword and Shield, I thought this would be something that I'd be willing to give a shot this time. So we'll have a little bit of an abbreviated makeshift draft analysis right here. We'll have two battles next week. Week 1 will go up Tuesday, week 2 will go up Thursday, and then every battle after that will go up on the Thursday. So we'll have NCL videos on Thursday regularly. So without wasting any more time, I'll get right into my first draft pick. We have a new Mon from Sword and Shield, a new Gen 8 Mon. However, this is not something that we have access to in Sword and Shield games because we are actually allowed to use unreleased hidden abilities in this league, which means that Rillaboom can have Grassy Surge, which is super cool because it just makes this thing super powerful, and honestly it is like very comparable viability wise, in my opinion, to Tapu Bulu. Rillaboom has base 125 attack, which is only 5 points less than Tapu Bulu's base 130 attack. It has 10 more points in speed, so it's base 85 speed. Tapu Bulu's only 75, so I feel like that makes Rillaboom a much better Scarf option. I mean, you see Bulu run Banded quite often. You can see Rillaboom run Banded, I'm sure, as well. But just with that extra 10 points in speed, I think definitely gives more viability for a Scarf Rillaboom. Really good utility in U-turn and knockoff and stuff. Gets great coverage. Gets fighting coverage, rock coverage. Gets ground coverage as well. With the prevalence of high horsepower now, it can use high horsepower so that it doesn't get nerfed by its own grassy terrain. Drum beating, it's super cool. Signature move. Lowers the opponent's speed by 1, so whatever's incoming, as long as it's not scarfed, you're probably going to be faster than it if you are holding a choice band. So like if something like a fast dragon or a fast flying type is switching in on a drum beating, it'll still take quite a bit of damage even though it may be resisted because it is grassy terrain boosted, and then it will lose its it'll lose. So like for an infiltrator Dragapult, for example, that will get its speed dropped by 1, and then it will get hit again by another attack from Rillaboom. I think it's a super cool move. I think the only drawback really for Rillaboom is that it, as a grass type, it doesn't have access to reliable recovery, which is super odd. Pretty much every grass type you'll ever see has Synthesis. And of course, the thing that makes Bulu so great is that it has Horn Leaf, so it can hit super hard and recover a lot of HP at the same time. But the only recovery that this gets is basically its recovery from its own grassy terrain that it sets. It does not get Synthesis, which is super strange, but that's just something that we'll have to deal with. So Rillaboom was a tier 2, and the next pick I actually picked another tier 2, that being Hatterene. So we grabbed another Gen 8 Pokemon. Hatterene with Magic Bounce. I love Magic Bounce, having that on your team. It forces a lot of a prep on the opponent's side. At this point, I hadn't even looked at the doc yet. I wasn't referring to it to make these picks. So I kind of just thought of the first mon that popped into my head that would be fun to use, that would mesh well with the idea that I had in mind for this team, and it was a new mon that came to mind that has access to Trick Room. I was really looking to build a powerful Trick Room team with this build, since I was able to get Rillaboom. Middling speed tier. It can function decently well on a faster team or a slower team, I feel, but Rillaboom itself is not really what we're building around here, but I am very glad that I have the ability to use something that's unreleased currently. And then Hatterene, great Trick Room Center, very powerful in its own right. Couple drawbacks to it that are kind of that hinder it a bit. It has very low base HP, so you're always going to be investing max HP to maximize its bulk. And sadly, it doesn't have access to Moonblast. Its best fairy type move is Dazzling Gleam. Moonblast being actually quite a bit more powerful than Dazzling Gleam, 15 base special attack points higher, but fortunately it doesn't get it, but it's still going to be hitting quite hard with its base like 136 attack or something like that. It's pretty nuts. So the next pick, I finally took a tier 1 after taking tier 2s right away, so we got Howlucha. Of course, with Unburden, this is going to pair with Grassy Surge very well, so although I had a Trick Room team in mind, having Grassy Surge Howlucha is going to be that instant form of speed control that is going to allow me to outspeed anything that I may need to in a late game situation. So, and another reason why I wanted to take Howlucha is because of the buffs, some of the buffs that it's received in Generation 8. Brave Bird and Close Combat, so good on this mon. It opens up so many doors of sets that it can run. Previously, its best physical flying move that it could use would be like either Sky Attack or Acrobatics, but Sky Attack you don't really want to run unless you're running a Power Herb set. It's also not 100% accurate, and Acrobatics isn't powerful until you've consumed Howlucha's held item and activated its Unburden or whatever. But with Brave Bird, you can just bring it in and have a reliable flying move to click whenever you want at any point in the game. And of course, because it takes recoil, you'll be rolling your HP down, and if you want your Citrus Berry to be popped at a certain time, then you can do so by not necessarily clicking Substitute, by just willing your HP down by Brave Bird recoil, which I think is pretty cool. And then Close Combat as well. Close Combat works well with White Herb sets, because when you drop your defenses, you can restore them back to neutral, and then your Unburden activates again. So there are so many ways that you can use Howlucha now with the addition of those two moves. I'm really looking forward to using it here. So next we have Bulky Water Jellison, which is a tier 3. Huge buff in Gen 8. I wouldn't say huge buff, but a pretty cool buff that now that it has access to Strength Sap. So it's a Bulky Water, it's a water immunity, and another Trick Room setter. So we now have 2 Trick Room setters with Hatterene and Jellison. I mean, nothing else much has changed with Jellison in the new generation outside of the fact that it has a Strength Sap. So I guess just really that one move has increased its value a whole tier in draft leagues, which I find pretty interesting. Yeah, so I like using Jellison a lot. It's sometimes, I guess, maybe a little bit less bulky on the physical side than you'd wish, but that's where having Strength Sap is really nice, because you can lower the opponent's attack and recover your own HP at the same time. So hopefully that makes it a much more reliable wall for our team. So next up, the first 4 mons that we took were all mons that are available in Sword and Shield, although of course, we have Rillaboom with Grassy Surge, which we can't use in Sword and Shield at the moment. But with our next pick, we have Porygon 2, which is our third Trick Room setter, and is one of those mons that can just 1v1 your entire team if you're not ready to take it on. And again, another mon that forces prep on the opponents. Of course, its only weakness is to fighting, and currently we are not remotely scared of fighting types, having one immunity, a ×4 resistance, and another resistance in Hawlucha, and of course Howlucha can body the fighting types with its flying type moves. We do have to be kind of cautious of knockoff though, because Porygon 2 likes to hold its Violite, and if that gets knocked off, then it's a lot less bulky than it otherwise be. And our knockoff switch-ins currently aren't the best. I mean, Hawlucha is fine. We don't necessarily want its item to get knocked off and Unburdened to be wasted. Our Fairy type is not resistant to knockoff because it's part Psychic type, and then Jellison's weak to it as well, so we'll definitely have to watch out for that. Unfortunately, I think this is really stupid, but they got rid of Game Freak got rid of like Return and Frustration from the move pool, or just Pokemon's move pool in general. So that makes it so that if I want to run a physical Porygon 2 with download and have its attack increased, then my best normal type stab option is Secret Power at base 70 as opposed to base 102, or I could run Double Edge and take recoil damage, but I don't know, I have a hard time wanting to run Double Edge on a Porygon 2 who values its bulk and having its HP high at pretty much all times. But yeah, so we probably won't be seeing very many physical Porygon 2 sets anymore, is what I'm trying to say. So next we have another mon that is not available in Sword and Shield. That would be Salamence. Salamence, I just felt, looking at how I would be rounding up my team, would be the best Dragon type option for me to take. It is another tier 1, so this will go into our free points. We have a tier 1 and a tier 2 taking up our free points, so that means we only have 100 left, 100 free points left for our 2 picks. However, you will see that we will get some of those free points back when we take our Mega next round. So Salamence, base 100 speed tier, it's another flying type on top of Hawlucha, but Salamence isn't really going to be using flying type moves all that often, unless you run like Power Herb Fly. In Gen 7, it could have a powerful Supersonic Sky Strike with Z Crystals, but Z moves are not allowed in this league, so if we want to be using flying moves on Salamence, it's Power Herb Fly, or that's it, pretty much. Unless it gets access to Hurricane now with TRs, but honestly I don't even know. It's probably worth checking. I'm curious to see if it can use Hurricane. I know that's... oh wait, no. Of course it can't learn Hurricane because you can't use it in... you can't use it in Sword and Shield, so why would it get Hurricane now? Anyways, it's a Wish Passer, which is nice. I can Wish Pass into stuff like Rillaboom and Hatterene, which don't have reliable recovery themselves. It's one of 2 defoggers that I have on my team. The 2 being Salamence and Hawlucha. I do have another Rapid Spinner later on, but hazard removal not particularly great on this team, but that's okay, I guess. I've kind of been trending more towards less hazard removal on my teams of late, but yeah, I've never used Salamence before, so I'm looking forward to the opportunities to use it. And now we get right onto our Mega pick, Mega Camerupt. So we have 3 Trick Room setters already to set up for Mega Camerupt to come in and just wreak havoc on my opponents. This is a tier 3 Mega, so it's going to give me 60 extra free points to work with. Outstanding synergy with Trick Room and Grassy Terrain, as I mentioned. So because I got Rillaboom, I've been wanting to try out certain ground types to pair with Grassy Surge, and those are mainly special attacking ground types that have very powerful Earth powers. Because of course Earth Power is because Earth Power is not nerfed with Grassy Terrain up. Grassy Terrain also benefits Camerupt in that it takes reduced damage from super effective earthquakes, although I'm sure, because as I mentioned, the more wide distribution of high horsepower now, so we'll probably see more teams taking advantage of that and running high horsepower against me instead. But Camerupt also gets access to Nature Power, and if Grassy Terrain is on the field with Camerupt, then Nature Power will turn into Energy Ball, which will be Sheer Force boosted and super effective against water types that are otherwise very threatening towards Camerupt, seeing as it is 4 times weak. This is the first of 4 hazard setters I have on my team. Hazard setting also not a strong suit of this team, but the synergy so far, I'm really feeling it. The Trick Room synergy and the Grassy Terrain synergy. So Camerupt, very exciting, very excited to use it and to punch some holes through teams once I get that Trick Room set up. So next, with our 8th pick of the draft, we took our tier 5, and that was Raichu. It's a tier 5 electric. It's an electric community. It kind of fits in between the speed tiers of Hawlucha and Salamence. I mean, Hawlucha is really its own speed tier because, like, it's pretty much the fastest thing in the game once it activates its Unburden. So I really like Raichu as an electric type this generation because there is no more hidden power. So Raichu can use both Surf and Grass Knot to hit ground types. That was a really important thing to me. So it's not like totally screwed over by ground types now because we don't have hidden power. And another reason, you could argue this was probably a bit of a reach, like an early round to take a tier 5 Raichu, but I wanted it now because I had already put together a team on Wi-Fi to use on my streams that featured Raichu. I made like a team of Sword and Shield Mons that I had drafted within this team when Raichu was on the team, so that's why I wanted it now, because I didn't want to be using Mons that I didn't actually draft for this team on the Wi-Fi team. But anyways, Stakataka obviously is a Mon that we can't use in Sword and Shield. This was a replacement because I originally had planned to use Copper Raja as my Steel type. So this I had to go up. I had to spend 20 more points on it. So for my last pick, I had to take another tier 5 instead of taking a tier 4. But with Stakataka, we get a bonus Trick Room setter, so it can set its own Trick Room and then also do a ton of damage. In Grassy Terrain, it's not taking much damage from Earthquake, although we might see some more high horsepowers coming around. And unfortunately for this, it doesn't really get an alternate ground type coverage option because it is not in Sword and Shield, then it doesn't have the benefit of the TRs. So if it's running Earthquake itself with Grassy Terrain up, then it's going to be weakened a little bit, but that's okay because it has the strongest gyro ball known to man. And I feel like this is a really good Steel type now that Hidden Power is no longer in the game, because a lot of fairies that might want to run Hidden Power ground to hit this thing 4 times super effectively and on its weaker special defense side can no longer do that. And a lot of the fairies now get fire type coverage with Mystical Fire. However, Stakataka is not weak to Mystical Fire, and it doesn't really care about having its special attack lowered. So I think Stakataka is a much more viable just Steel type check to things now. Steel type fairy check especially. So we'll see how that works out. It's also another Stealth Rock setter, my second of 3 Stealth Rock setters. 10th, second to last pick of the draft was Drapion. Tier 4 Dark Poison, just filling 2 types that I didn't already have. That's Dark Poison is also a very nice type to have. I left this till last because or to second last because I didn't mind taking Skuntank as a backup. So if Drapion got taken, then I would just take Skuntank in its place. Skuntank would actually given me 2 things that Drapion doesn't have in Sucker Punch and Defog. Well, Sucker Punch like priority is the thing that Drapion doesn't provide, but Drapion's speed is nice because I don't have, obviously this is predominantly a Trick Room team, so I want to have a couple mons that are not like super slow or mid-tier speed tier. Like Skuntank would have been more around Rillaboom's speed tier, which I already have, so Drapion's bridging that gap between Rillaboom at 85 and Salamence at 100. And the last mon on the team, I actually didn't have like much time to think about what mon I wanted as my last draft pick, so my front office drafted the Claydol for me. They took it as my last pick. They just kind of made an executive decision based on things that I said that I wanted. Kind of something in that to bridge the gap between Rillaboom and my base 60 mons, my base 60 speed mons being like Porygon 2 and Jellison. I didn't have anything between that speed tier. I also didn't have a Rapid Spinner, so we get that with Claydol. Cool thing about Rapid Spin now is that it gives you a +1 speed boost. So Claydol, although not the most powerful Pokemon, has decent enough coverage to where if it gets a +1 boost in speed, it might actually be able to clean. And I would love to see that happen. Claydol getting like a late game sweep with 3 kills or something. That would be pretty funny to see. Oh, and it's also a 5th Trick Room center for this team. And the 3rd and final rocker. I mentioned I had 4 hazard setters, and the 4th being Drapion being able to set up Toxic Spikes, which is nice. So Toxic Spikes works well on this team as well because I have so many forms of reliable recovery in Jellison, Porygon, Salamence. Those are the main 3, I guess. Howlucha can run Roost if it really wants, but it's very rarely going to be doing that. But yeah, I feel like the defensive core of Salamence, Porygon 2, and Jellison can benefit really well from a week that I might want to bring Toxic Spikes with Drapion. So yep, that is going to be the team. Let me know what you think about it and if you're excited to see it in action. Again, as I mentioned, next Tuesday we'll be back with week 1, and next Thursday we'll have week 2. I'll be doing post-commentated games for this league because for my Wi-Fi leagues that will be starting soon, I have to do live comms for them because you can't save the replays anymore. But on Showdown, we can watch the replays, and I can give a more detailed explanation of my thought process and whatnot for these Showdown battles. So, yep, comment down below if you like the team. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well, and we will see you next week with our week 1 battle of the NCL.